All right, and welcome live to an episode of Lambeau Talk. So today we are going to be going over um Super Bowl picks for the gonna be going over the Super Bowl that happened that is going to happen on Sunday of this week, and we will also be going over the NFL honors. So, um just to give you a little bit of background information about myself, my name is Jack, and I am a Green Bay Packers fan. Have been my entire life. Um, and also am into kind of the general, how the game is played stuff. So just gonna kind of talk some football, and then we also talk some Packers stuff. All right. So getting into the content here. So first thing is our Super Bowl this year is held in New Orleans, so we have a good chance that we have so that's the 11th Super Bowl held in New Orleans, Louisiana. So this game is essentially, as I think about it, essentially is a rematch of Chiefs versus Eagles back in 2023. Except there is a significant difference on both teams, but especially in this episode, well, right now, I'm mainly focusing on the Eagles changes. So, as of now, ESPN Analytics is predicting that the Chiefs have a 43.9% chance of winning the Super Bowl this year, um, where the Eagles have a 56.1% chance. So that's a pretty significant margin of error. And usually those things are about right. It's only when you get into the couple percentage range, excuse me, where you start to see some different divergence from the actual results. So the main interest, and here's the reason why I think this is a lot more evenly matched um than the 2023 Super Bowl, is the fact that um the Eagles this time around have a really dominant pass rush, especially the one player that has now won the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. So if you look down here at the Week 22 top rushers, which is what Pro Football Reference calls uh, um, the Super Bowl week, you'll see that the top there's three of the top five rushers in Super Bowl 58, um, or Super Bowl 57, excuse me. Three of those top five rushers were from Kansas City, and the second highest rusher in the entire game was the Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. So now that they have somebody, um, and you can see down here that Philadelphia is at the way bottom of the list. So you can see that now that they have somebody who is able to execute the pass rush and not just have the quarterback, because obviously the quarterback's going to be a lot more um, sensitive to trying to keep themselves a little bit more healthy, so they'll slide, whereas a pass rusher is just going to try to get as many yards as they possibly can. Um, and then so the Chiefs did have pretty good pass rushing um, in the 2023 Super Bowl. You can see, yep, at the end there. And then the other fact with the Chiefs win in Super Bowl 57 is the dominance of the Kansas City defense. So the Eagles' defense has changed a lot since then, but we'll just go over the 2023 Super Bowl here. So week 22, if you look here, um, for it's pretty self-explanatory in top defenders. So these are your tackles and assistant tackles and interceptions and etc. But you can see that obviously four of the top five defenders on the Kansas City side, where A.J. Brown is the only top defender for Philadelphia here. You can see they got some sacks, each one of those. All right. So the last year the Eagles defense in pass yards allowed per game, because we know Patrick Mahomes likes to throw the ball a decent bit. So this was a stat that I figured was probably worth including here, was that the Kansas City, or the Eagles rather, defense is now first in the league in pass yards allowed per game versus 31st last season. So this year they're averaging 174.2 yards per game, which is a pretty crazy stat that you're able to just turn that around so quickly, mostly because during the 2024 draft, they quickly grabbed two defensive players to fill out their secondary, Quinn and Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So obviously remains to be seen how the game will unfold, but either way, we have a good shot at making history for either team. So the Chiefs, obviously, if they three-peat, they have done that for the first time in the Super Bowl era. And then Eagles would get their second Super Bowl win and the 11th Super and either way, the 11th Super Bowl will be held in New Orleans this upcoming Sunday. So, in terms of my pick, I would go with the Chiefs personally, because I think that the Kansas City defense has always been pretty good in the postseason. Not always during the regular season, but pretty good during the postseason. And especially these last couple playoff cycles, they've been really good. Um, but the Eagles do have Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and they can really put some stuff together. So it depends. I could lean either way, but for now, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win Super Bowl 59. Just because of that, they've had practice doing it. They have experienced players. Um, they're pretty healthy. The Eagles have some players that are currently sick. Not sure that entire situation, um, but they should be pretty good in terms of having healthy players at this point. All right, and then moving on to NFL honors, we have MVP Josh Allen. The only other candidate for this that I believe was second up was Lamar Jackson. I could see it either way. I would just say that Josh Allen got further than Lamar and um, won more games. So there's just a couple more in the column. So it could have really gone either way. Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell. I see that. I personally would have preferred Dan Campbell, just because of the Lions' turnaround over the past couple seasons, from the winless season, or the one-win season, excuse me, or Dan Quinn for the Commanders, because that was a pretty impressive 180 this season, and not many expected them to, get to the NFC Championship game and play competitively. Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain the second. Offensive Player of the Year, not really a surprise. Saquon Barkley definitely deserved that one. Defensive Rookie, Jared Verts, good. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, very, very not surprising, really. Comeback Player of the Year, Joe Burrow, not that surprising. And then Pro Football Hall of Fame, Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp Sr. The only thing I will say on the Pro Football Hall of Fame selections this year is I personally was not. Um, I feel like there probably should have been a couple more. Four seems like kind of a low number. I know they've been trying to be more restrictive in these couple years, but now we are starting to get to the point where we're starting to have modern players that have a lot of experience and stuff. So I think it would probably be good for them to widen the gates a little bit. Let some coaches in, like Holmgren should get elected in there in the recent future. And the thing is, these guys are getting old too, so you never know how long they're going to be around. So you may as well get them in while they're still around with us and can enjoy it. Um, yeah, Sterling Sharp definitely deserved to get in there. Yeah. So that about wraps it up for this episode of Lambeau Cast. See you next week.